if he knows what we will do, how can he affect what we will do? If he knows that, if he knows after we're done tonight, you're going to get an ice cream cone. Let's just say for an example, if he has known that forever, he knows that you will have an ice cream cone. Is there anything he can do to change that? Because if he has known it will be, then to change it would be to say, oh, he didn't really know it. Right? So if he knows what will be, then what he knows will be must take place. And therefore, God cannot use this knowledge that he has to make any kind of providential oversight over what occurs. Now, let me give you an analogy. Maybe this will help. Suppose, and you have to imagine that you have money. So some of you really have to use your imagination here for this illustration. But suppose you had money to invest, and you knew right now what every transaction that will take place in the stock market for the next 30 years. Would that be advantageous to you? Well, you would think so. However, the answer is no. Why? Well, if you know right now every transaction that will take place in the stock market for the next 30 years, that includes every transaction you will make, and because you know it, it cannot be different than you know. So all that gives you is advanced knowledge of all the stupid investments, decisions you'll make, and how much money you're going to lose, and you can't change it. You get the point? So, here is God. He knows everything that's going to take place. He knows it exhaustively. He knows it meticulously. And the point is, he knows it will be. He can't change it. So, one of the conclusions you come to in regard to the Arminian view is God has absolutely no control over what takes place in the world. Just think about that statement I just made. He has absolutely no control over what takes place in the world. Why? How does he know what he knows about it? He just knows it. See, in the Calvinist view, this is, third and fourth sessions, in the Calvinist view, God knows what he knows about what will happen in the world because he ordains what's going to happen. His foreknowledge is the byproduct of his foreordination. But in Arminianism, God just knows. It's not that he planned it or purposed it, he just knows it. So you ask, well, did he control what he knows will take place? No, he just knows it. Can he control what he knows of what he knows that is going to take place? Does he have any control over that? No. So the fact of the matter is, the God of classic Arminianism has absolutely no control over what happens in the world. It's amazing. It's stunning to see this. This is why there's a pull toward open theism or middle knowledge Arminianism, which I'll explain both of those tomorrow to you, although we'll focus on open theism primarily. So we'll wait on that. Okay, so capital letter C, providence in relation to good and evil. This should be pretty clear in light of what we've talked about so far. In dealing with the problem of evil, there's a two-stage argument that Arminians give. Stage one is a free will argument. It goes like this. God cannot... that can't be right, can it? God cannot give, there must be the word give there, give freedom to his moral creatures for the purpose of their using it for good, without the possibility of their using their freedom instead for evil. This sometimes is called the law of double effect. If God intends one effect to use freedom for good, he cannot give that gift to them, that gift of freedom, with the intention of their using it for good, without the possibility of them instead using it with the outcome of they use it for evil. The law of double effect. Why is that? Because what kind of freedom do we have? Libertarian freedom. So if we choose good, power of contrary choice, we could have chosen evil. If we choose evil, libertarian freedom, we could have chosen good. So God cannot give us freedom without the possibility of our using that freedom, which He intends for us to use it for good, without our actually using it for evil. So He cannot do this. He cannot give us freedom and guarantee we will only use that freedom for good. Why? Because it's libertarian freedom. It's the power of contrary choice. We have this capacity in the very gift of freedom to do otherwise, the power to do otherwise. Therefore, that's inevitable. An analogy would be this. You go to the doctor with a migraine headache. My sister gets migraine headaches. They're horrible. I just feel so badly for her sometimes. You go to the doctor with a migraine headache, and he says, I do have some medication that is very powerful that will take away your migraine headache. But he says, I am really sorry. It will have this other effect. Namely, you'll be nauseous. And I can't avoid that. I can't give you this medication that will take away your migraine headache without also the possibility of the nausea that will come. Okay, so it's the law of double effect. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if He could give you the medication to take away your migraine headache with no nausea? Wouldn't it be nice if God could give libertarian freedom to people so that they would use it for good and they could not use it for evil? But if they could not, it wouldn't be libertarian freedom. You see that? Okay. So now there is a second stage of the argument. It's called the greater good defense. And it goes like this. Before God creates the world, He knows that the use of freedom for good will be greater than its use for evil. And you can tell why that's important to the argument, right? Because not only is it important to say the reason evil takes place in the world is because we're the ones who use the good gift of freedom in a way God did not intend. He intended it for good, but we use it for evil. Okay, that explains why evil takes place. But what if, when God creates the world, He looks ahead and He says, you know what? The vast majority of the choices people are going to make, the use they're going to make of their freedom is to bring about evil. Would God want to create the world then? You'd think He would say, don't want to do that. But instead He looks ahead and He says, you know what? The vast majority of the choices that will be made will bring about good. God knows, because He has foreknowledge, that the greater good than evil will take place. Let me go back to the migraine analogy for a moment. So the doctor says to you, I have this medication, very powerful medication. It'll take away your migraine headache, but it might give you nausea. Now, you probably would take it, wouldn't you? You think that's, that's worth the cost. The good outweighs the evil in that case, right? Now, suppose he said, though, I have a medication I can give you that will take away your migraine headache, but it does have this negative side effect. It will kill you. Would you take it? I mean, in that case, the good doesn't outweigh the evil outweighs the good, right? So this is God. So if God looks at the world and he says, wow, yeah, they have libertarian freedom, but boy, they use it, almost all of it for evil, would He do it? No. So the greater good defense assures us that God knows that good will outweigh evil. Response to this. Number one, the free will argument in relation to what might be called the problem of goodness. It's a problem that most Arminians don't come face to face with. And that's simply the notion that if we're the ones that bear responsibility for evil, we could have chosen good, but we do evil. Aren't we also the ones who ought to get the credit for good? And how much good, how much of the goodness that takes place in the world ought we get credit for? Everything done with libertarian freedom. Everything done with libertarian freedom. Because ultimately it's not God who controls it. It's us who does it. So, I mean, really it just absolutely strips God of rightful glory because we deserve the credit. If we deserve the blame for the evil we do with libertarian freedom, by the same token, we deserve the credit. Now, I don't know how you get out of this in the Arminian view. It's not the same in Calvinism, by the way. It just isn't. Because, why? Because we are monergists, not synergists. We believe that it is the grace of God at work in and through us, not I, but the grace of God with me. I labored more than all of them, yet not I, but the grace of God with me. So we believe God is the one who does it in and through us. Second response, is the notion of libertarian freedom coherent and biblically justified? You know what, I'm going to save this point for when we talk about the Reformed model, both because it's getting late and because I talk about it there. So just make a note if you want that we'll come to this point on the coherence of libertarian freedom. So skip over now to the top of page 4 in small letter C, the greater good defense and massive purposeless evil in the real world. Boy, when you look at the world we live in, and I mean, honestly, you have to put your head in the sand like an ostrich not to see how much evil there is in this world. It is hard to see from an Arminian vantage point. You know, God loves people. He doesn't want there to be anything that's hurtful to anybody. Boy, is it really true that good outweighs evil in this world? It is not at all apparent that that is the case. And so one wonders on what basis the Arminian is so confident that is the case. Okay, finally, capital letter D, providence in relation to salvation. Providence in relation to salvation. The Arminian argument is very simple. God's love for all people and the justice of his nature require that all people are able to accept God's gracious offer of salvation, and God would not unfairly choose some while purposely overlooking others. It's the love and the justice of God brought together that indicate, out of his love, he would never choose some over others, and his justice would require fair treatment of all people. A couple responses. First of all, response to the argument from God's love. This is huge, and we'll come back to it when we come to the Reformed model. I'll just give you the basics of it right here. When you look at the love of God in the Bible, you realize that the love of God is complex, not simple. Don Carson wrote a very helpful book, a little book. You should get it if you don't have it and read it. It's just very helpful. Entitled The Difficult Doctrine of, what do you suppose the rest of the title was? The Difficult Doctrine of Hell, right? No. The Difficult Doctrine of Divine Judgment, right? No. The Difficult Doctrine of the Love of God. I mean, most of us think that's the cakewalk. You know, that's the frosting. There's nothing difficult about the love of God. Oh yeah? How about Romans 9:13? Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated. How about that? This is not easy, is it? When you look at the love of God in the Bible, you realize that while John 3:16 is true, there is a general universal love for all people. In one sense, there is another sense in which the majority of the statements of the love of God are statements of his love for his own, for his sheep, for his church, for his own people. That means he loves them in ways he does not love others. So the love of God biblically is in one sense universal. Goodness, We all are given, you know,